Next on Currents News, the Pope's mission to Morocco, a journey to build Christian-Muslim unity, included a surprise statement about Jerusalem. The latest on the border crisis as a flood of Central American migrants overwhelm Texas towns. Catholic Charities is working hard to help out. An exclusive interview with the founder of the Vatican's women's magazine. She explains why she and her team quit their jobs.
Hundreds of young Catholics gathering on a Saturday morning to ignite the church. I'm Tim Harfman, and I'll explain coming up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. The Pope's whirlwind weekend mission to Morocco is over. Throughout Saturday and Sunday, Francis kept to a jam-packed schedule with one surprise. Currents News' Emily Drewby reports on some of the highlights. Emily.
Liz, high on the Holy Father's agenda, building bridges between Christians and Muslims and ministering to Morocco's small Catholic community. In Morocco, the Pope did something unexpected. Not long after his arrival in the capital of Rabat, he sat down with the country's king, Mohammed VI. Together, they signed an important statement on Jerusalem and its spiritual significance as a city of peace. They urged that Jerusalem be preserved for humanity and pointed to its religious importance. Their joint statement said, "It is our hope, therefore, that in the holy city, full freedom of access to the followers of the three monotheistic religions and their right to worship will be guaranteed." Although the Pope didn't address it directly, both Israel and the Palestinians claimed Jerusalem as their capital city. The Holy Father did focus on a pillar of his pontificate, creating stronger unity between Christians and Muslims.
Sviluppare e assumere costantemente.
It is vital to foster the culture of dialogue and adhere to it unfailingly, to adopt mutual cooperation as our code of conduct and reciprocal understanding as our method and standard.
Nearly the entire population of Morocco are believers in Islam. Less than 1% are Catholic, about 23,000. There are 2 archdioceses in the nation, served by 15 diocesan priests and 31 religious priests. There are 15 Catholic schools. On Sunday, the Pope celebrated outdoor Mass at a Rabat sports complex. Thousands attended, including Muslim leaders, in a sign of unity. In his homily, the Holy Father talked about rejecting hate and promoting tolerance.
Crecer la cultura de la misericordia.
To continue to let the culture of mercy grow, a culture in which no one looks at others with indifference or averts his eyes in the face of their suffering, continue to be a sign of the Father's loving embrace.
Pope Francis also praised Morocco's Catholics for their support in helping migrants who pass through the African country en route to Europe. The Holy Father visited a small group of migrants as a sign of his support. The Pope concluded his journey by speaking with Morocco's Catholic clergy and paying his respects at the mausoleum of Mohammed V, the king who is considered the father of modern Morocco. There was a really beautiful moment at the end of Mass on Sunday where the Holy Father thanked those in attendance for allowing him to be what he called a servant of hope and asking those present to join him, since hope is something the world desperately needs. Liz?
Emily, for those that don't know, why was the Holy Father wearing rose-colored vestments while celebrating Mass in Morocco? That was a change.
Liz, those vestments are worn in Catholic churches around the world on the 4th Sunday of Lent, also known as Laetare Sunday.
All right. Thank you so much, Emily, for that report. The Pope made more news on his flight back to the Vatican. Speaking to reporters on board the papal plane, he reiterated his call for compassion when it comes to migration, and he rejected the construction of walls to keep migrants out.
We feel pain when we see people who prefer to build walls. Why do we feel this pain? Those who build walls will end up becoming prisoners of the walls they build.
And this isn't the first time Francis has criticized border walls in Panama. Earlier this year, the Pope said walls sow fear. And during the 2016 presidential campaign, the Pope said President Trump's call for a border wall was not Christian. Flying with the Pope on his plane was Crux Rome Bureau Chief Inez San Martin. She joins us now from the Eternal City. Inez, thank you so much, as always, for being with us. You know, the Pope's answer about walls and bridges will resonate in the United States as President Trump pushes for a southern border wall. Was the Holy Father sending a message to the White House?
He was actually sending a message not only to the White House, but to every government around the world that is contemplating walls and fences as a solution to the ongoing migrant crisis. That has to be said, at least, doesn't only impact the United States. There is a huge migrant crisis in Europe too. And we're seeing more and more countries, including, for instance, Spain, putting up walls and fences to make sure that migrants don't come in.
Now, the migrant issue, a big one on this in-flight press conference. In another question, the Pope was asked for his reaction to anti-immigrant policies in Europe, which have been supported by mostly Christian voters. What did he have to say to that?
Well, Liz, what he had to say to that is that you cannot really call yourself a Christian and treat migrants the way some are being treated here in Europe, because at the end of the day, as the gospel and the Bible says, you were yourself a migrant in Egypt. This is something Pope Francis has reminded us of very often, and he's also spoke about the importance of integrating migrants, integrating those who are fleeing hunger, who are fleeing war, who are fleeing persecution into Europe. He understands that we cannot have an open border policy, but he also wants to see a Europe that is a mother, not a grandmother, a Europe that is willing to help those in need, not only by welcoming and integrating, but also by helping them be able to stay in their country and investing in countries that today have been affected by European policies, like, for instance, the selling of weapons to Saudi Arabia that are then used in Yemen to kill children. This is something he said, and it was very impactful for us listening.
Other comments that a lot of people are talking about. Francis talking to reporters about the case of French Cardinal Philippe Barbarin, who was convicted of failing to report sexual abuse to authorities. Now, the Cardinal insists he's innocent. He's appealing the verdict. The Holy Father offering support, didn't he?
Yes, well, he basically said that he doesn't know if Barbarin is innocent or not. He said we'll have to see if he's innocent. But he did say that at the end of the day, everyone has the right to be presumed innocent until their trial is actually over. As you said, Barbarin has appealed his sentencing of 6 months that's been withheld, so he's not going to go to prison because he does think he's innocent. And Pope Francis is willing to give Barbarin that international right, judiciary right that he has, which is to be presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Now, talking to you about one of the main reasons why the Holy Father did travel over the weekend, what did he have to say about his mission to Morocco and its impact on Christian-Muslim dialogue?
It was actually very interesting, Liz, because this is a Pope who is very committed to, as you say, the Christian-Muslim dialogues and about tending bridges, not only of words or theology or written text, but actual friendship between Muslims and Christians. And this was yet another step, a continuation of a journey that Pope Francis began when he was in Egypt in 2017 and continued last February when he took us all to the United Arab Emirates. He had a very positive view of Morocco. He said he was very happy with what he had seen and what he had lived in Morocco. And he also spoke about the importance of being understanding towards Islam, because there's a lot of people in the West who, for instance, like to bring up into his attention, and this is something that he was asked about, the fact that there are people in Muslim countries who are not allowed to convert to Christianity. Pope Francis says that this is part of a freedom of conscience, that it's evolving in the Muslim world, but he's also warned about the fact that it's devolving in many Christian countries. He spoke specifically about the fact that Christian doctors in Christian hospitals are being deprived from the right of objection of conscience, for instance, when it comes to euthanasia.
Inez, there was so much to cover, and as always, you do that so well. Thank you so much for all that insight. Great talking to you.
Thank you, Liz.
President Trump is threatening to close the U.S. border with Mexico. He said the Mexican government isn't doing enough to stop Central American migrants who are heading for the United States.
We have right now 2 big caravans coming up from Guatemala. Massive caravans walking right through Mexico. So Mexico's tough. They can stop them, but they chose not to. Now they're going to stop them. And if they don't stop them, we're closing the border. They'll close it, and we'll keep it closed for a long time. I'm not playing games.
The president has also cut aid to Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador because he said those governments have failed to keep their citizens at home. Trump said the U.S. has run out of space along the border and can't hold any more people. A surge of Customs and Border Protection agents are being reassigned to deal with the flood of migrants now arriving. Daily crossings have hit a 13-year high. Without enough space to hold them, hundreds of migrants are being released into Texas towns. Catholic Charities is doing its best to help them, and Natasha Chen reports on that.
Arar Garcia can't remember which day he got to the U.S. It's been a blur. U.S. authorities gave him an ankle bracelet, and he's trying to get to a relative in Kansas, all to escape the dire economy and violence in Guatemala.
I worked on the fields, growing coffee plants.
He's one of at least 2,000 migrants who have already been dropped off by Customs and Border Protection into McAllen, Brownsville, and Harlingen because officials say there's just no room to hold them. In McAllen, CBP drops migrants off at Catholic Charities. If their U.S. relatives can buy them a bus ticket, they are then taken to the central bus station. Their long journey to the U.S. is now followed by confusion, a release with notices to appear in court, which many of them don't understand.
I explain to them what to expect up front. I tell them, immigration is going to ask you, where are you going?
Luis Guerrero is a volunteer who's seen and heard all their stories, including that of a 4-year-old girl whose family was robbed by men with machetes.
She said, I'll never forget you. And I said, why, Mama? She said, because you were the first one to tell us, welcome to the United States. That really hit me.
He helps all of them onto their next destinations. Natasha Chen, Currents News.
A deadly migrant tragedy involving Haitians in shark-infested waters off the Turks and Caicos Islands. At least 15 people are dead after a boat smuggling undocumented immigrants capsized. The U.S. Coast Guard and local police launched a rescue operation and were able to save 14 passengers. The bodies of the dead were recovered late Sunday. The Coast Guard is still searching for several others who have not been accounted for. Sentences have been handed down for attempting to bomb a church in Alexandria, Egypt. 18 terrorists will spend the rest of their lives in prison. Another dozen will go to jail for up to 15 years. In 2017, an attack on St. Mark's Cathedral in Alexandria took 45 lives. St. Mark's is Egypt's historic seat of Christianity. The U.S. Supreme Court is allowing a lawsuit brought by Planned Parenthood to go ahead. The nation's biggest abortion provider is suing activists from the Center for Medical Progress. They secretly recorded Planned Parenthood employees talking about the sale of human tissue. The center tried to block the suit on First Amendment grounds, leading to today's high court ruling. The decision allows the case to go forward in lower courts. There's a lot more news headed your way. A deadly mistake when a college student thought she was getting into an Uber. Experts are offering advice everyone should hear. An exclusive report on the upheaval at the Vatican's women's magazine. The publication's founder explains why she quit. More than 1,000 young Catholic adults turned out Saturday morning. We'll have the story on why their theme was Ignite. A Currents News exclusive report from the Vatican on the mass resignations that took place at the magazine Women Church World. The founder and her top staff quit in protest. Melissa Butts reports this is the latest change involving the Holy See's communications operation.
Resignations are continuing under the Vatican's 5-year revamp of their communication department. This time, the entire staff of the Vatican Women's Magazine have all resigned, 11 simultaneously. In an open letter to Pope Francis and an official announcement in their April edition, Women Church World's founder, Lucetta Scarafia, and her hand-picked team have all resigned. There are many causes under the new direction of Vatican communications. A process of delegitimization began toward our magazine. We thought we could resist, but the process was wearing us out, so we thought it best to leave. The 7-year-old monthly magazine was published by the Vatican's L'Osservatore Romano. On December 18th, the director changed from Scarafia's friend Giovanni Maria Vian to Andrea Monda. Scarafia says it was a painful decision to resign, yet the women's autonomous work was under threat. When the new communication director Monda arrived, they said they wanted to make him director of the magazine and to participate in our meetings. We said no, so we quit. Monda did not respond for comment. Rather, he referred to his printed response, which states he granted total autonomy and freedom to the women and refrained from interfering in any way, only suggesting possible themes or authors. He asserts the magazine will continue to be published. Others, who are more obedient, will continue it. Lucetta believes her article Sensatato about women religious who are abused by priests was a turning point. It led to Pope Francis being the first pope to admit abuse of religious women is happening within the Catholic Church.
Io non posso dire a casa mia questo è vero.
While the magazine began under Pope Benedict XVI, Pope Francis also supported their journalistic work. Yet these are not the only resignations that have taken place during the Vatican's revamp. Last March, Dario Vigano, the prefect of the Secretariat of Communications, resigned over the Lettergate scandal. And on December 31st, the two papal spokespersons also resigned. At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News. Back to you in New York, Liz.
Thank you, Melissa. Measles cases are hitting numbers not seen in a long time. The Centers for Disease Control is reporting that this year already has the greatest number of cases reported in the U.S. since the disease was eliminated in the year 2000. Measles is highly contagious. A total that is of 387 individual cases have been confirmed in 15 states from January 1st through March 28th. A severe case of measles can lead to death. The CDC is urging anyone not vaccinated against the disease to do so immediately. Tonight, there are new questions about ride-sharing safety after a passenger's mistake turned deadly. A college student has been murdered. Mary Maloney reports the latest.
Surveillance video shows 21-year-old Samantha Josephson getting into what she thought was an Uber early Friday morning.
We believe that she simply mistakenly got into this particular car thinking it was an Uber ride.
14 hours later, hunters discovered her body in a field 90 miles away.
I cannot fathom how someone could randomly select a person, a beautiful girl, and steal her life away.
Police arrested 24-year-old Nathaniel David Rowland on charges of kidnapping and murder. Investigators say they found Josephson's cell phone inside Rowland's black Chevrolet Impala, along with her blood.
Further examination determined that there was what appeared to be blood present in the car.
Police say the child's safety locks were activated, making it difficult for anyone to open the rear doors from the inside. Rowland didn't attend his first hearing, but Josephson's mother did, with a message.
My daughter's name is Samantha Josephson. Don't ever forget her name. Samantha Josephson, shame on you.
Josephson's friends and family held a vigil to remember a woman who had so much life. Her death sparking new concerns about ride-sharing security. Experts say to make sure the license plate, driver photo, and driver name match what's listed in the app before getting in a car.
This could happen to anybody, and that's the point. We have to teach the young people how to be careful.
Mary Maloney, Currents News.
Heading into Midtown will eventually cost you. Governor Andrew Cuomo and the state legislature agreed early this morning to add congestion pricing to the state's new budget. The plan is to decrease Manhattan traffic while increasing funding for mass transit improvements. The governor spoke about the decision.
This was not an easy one. It was a hard one, but the hard ones are the good ones.
The move is expected to raise more than $1 billion a year. A panel of experts will set the congestion pricing surcharges by the end of 2020. Still to come on Currents News, there was a big turnout at Catholic Youth Day. The young adults shared a goal to ignite a fire. And remembering Bishop Iggy at a memorial dinner that was also designed for another important purpose. We'll be right back. A high honor is going to Norman Francis, a pioneer in Catholic education and the civil rights movement. Mr. Francis is being recognized by the University of Notre Dame. They are awarding him the 2019 Laetare Medal, the nation's oldest and most prestigious award for Catholics. He was the first African-American president of Xavier University in Louisiana, a post he held for nearly half a century. The Laetare Medal honors men and women who ennobled the arts and sciences and illustrated celebrated the ideals of the church. Previous winners include President John F. Kennedy and Dorothy Day. Mr. Francis will receive his honor on May 19th. And the Brooklyn Diocese celebrated the life and times of Bishop Iggy, and Catholics gathered together Saturday at a memorial dinner dedicated to him and also supported Catholic education.
We thank you. We thank you.
The Bishop Ignatius Catanello Memorial Dinner helps to provide scholarships to students in need attending Cathedral Preparatory and Seminary High School in Queens. Bishop Catanello, affectionately called Iggy, was an auxiliary bishop in Brooklyn who was beloved by the Queens community that he served. They got together to ignite the faith. A large number of young adults assembling on Saturday as part of the Brooklyn Diocese Catholic Youth Day 2019. Currents News' Tim Harfman was there.
For 7th grader Grace Carlin, attending the 2019 Brooklyn and Queens Catholic Youth Day was an eye-opening experience.
It's kind of like incredible because you don't really know how much God has impacted anybody until you really see it.
She joined nearly 1,200 other young people for the diocese's special rally in Brooklyn's Windsor Terrace neighborhood. Their theme, Ignite. Brooklyn Auxiliary Bishop Octavio Cisneros said they were creating something exceptional.
The fire begins with one match and spreads, and I think that's what is going to happen with these young men and women from the diocese. They're going to ignite each other in the fire of the Spirit.
Bishop Cisneros celebrated Mass for the young men and women who also had the opportunity to go to confession and adore the Blessed Sacrament.
If you come as a church, he has to be the center of it all. It is Jesus that will ignite our hearts, our lives.
For Queens High School senior Tiffany Chick Okpuzer, all of the day's activities, including live music and motivational speakers, moved her spirit.
I feel that music is like a way for everyone to just get up and just have fun. And so with music that praises God, it can make all the young people understand that church is not boring. It can actually be lively and can be fun and interesting.
Helping to rally the young people on Saturday was Paul Marisi, the Brooklyn Diocese leader of youth and young adult formation.
Usually we get some young people who start off kind of sluggish on a Saturday morning, but once they hear the music, they see a bishop is here with them. There's some praise and worship opportunities. By the end of the day, they're really excited. So it's a wonderful opportunity to see that transformation in young people.
Tiffany judged the Youth Day to be a big success, and she's ready to ignite the faith when she's back at her St. Clair Parish in Rosedale, Queens.
It inspires me to continue helping others and to continue bringing other people to be able to experience the same experience that I had at these youth days.
In Windsor Terrace, Brooklyn, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
He just wants to express his heartfelt thanks. He's 90-year-old Jackson Zeri from California. Almost 24 years ago, he was fighting for his life. Doctors gave him only a week to live until a mysterious donor saved him. Now, Jack is on a mission.
I would love to make contact with that family if there was some way of I think they would be so proud to see that I'm still here at 90 and doing as well as I am. I want to thank them from the bottom of their heart, my heart.
Now, Jack's been told that the heart donor's family doesn't want to be reminded of their loss. Still, he got some information about his lifesaver. He was a 44-year-old man. That is Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.